Yo, what's up, guys? Joker bringing you another video. This time going over Diablo 4 Season 6 and the first expansion for Diablo 4, Vessel of Hatred, and my kind of first impressions and opinions on it. Before I get into the video and get into giving my opinions on it, I do believe that Diablo 4 is actually in a good enough state to recommend it now. Previously, I would say that it was not worth your money, right? And I had a hard time recommending it. But now Diablo 4 is actually in a really good state. I'm enjoying it. They've pretty much revamped almost everything that I've had a complaint about. And honestly, this may be a turnoff for some people, but it feels like they just turned D3 into like an MMO. And I really like that. I know that's going to turn some people away, but honestly, that's the vibe that I get from it. And I really do enjoy that. But yeah, into the video. Okay, so starting us off with my biggest complaint about the expansion. It might be actually one of my only complaints about the expansion and what I've experienced so far, but it is the story. I've never been a story person, but I do enjoy the story in games from time to time. But in ARPGs, I never really pay that much attention to them. I mean, I have like 7,000 hours in Path of Exile, and I still don't fucking know what's going on there. But this campaign story for the expansion, it just, I don't want to say it's bad, but it just doesn't hit right, right? Like, it's not it doesn't make sense. Like I feel like it doesn't add anything to the story. It seems like filler, right? It seems like just an extension of the story for an extension of the story. Like you could literally not have this and jump somewhere else and give like a 5 minute synopsis and you're good. You're all caught up. The story part of the campaign did not have to be added, and it potentially could have been a last minute addition. But I don't like it. My second main complaint is going to be the super scuffed season launch. As you can see here, at 4 p.m. Monday, October 7th, Vessel of Hatred was supposed to be available for players to play, and that's not how it went. It took until I want to say about midnight. So essentially, it took them 8, 9 hours of downtime to actually get the game to a playable state, which, in my opinion, from a AAA studio is kind of ridiculous. I mean, they did communicate it with us, but there's no reason why there should have been this many issues. Like, they've had this expansion planned for a while. They should have had this tested. They have had 5 seasons to go ahead and get like an average player count and everything like that. Make sure that the servers wouldn't be stressed. Elevated a little bit for the hype of more people coming because of the expansion, but they really have no excuse for how scuffed it was. I have not seen 9 hours of downtime from a dev studio trying to fix servers. So that means when they pushed out this patch, they broke something else entirely. That's the only thing I can think of, because when people were trying to log in, it was saying that our licenses weren't even valid. So it makes me feel like it was they literally just broke something. It like it wasn't even tested. And my third and final complaint is going to be the tempering system, right? I hate the tempering system with a passion. I see what they were going for, but it is beyond annoying and it is beyond stupid, in my opinion. I hate it so much because you're able to get almost perfect items and then you're able to brick them because of fucking RNG. It's so stupid, in my opinion. If you can't tell by looking at my weapon, the thing that I don't want to be there is the chance chance for the Devourer to deal double damage. The thing that I want is the chance for the Stinger to do an extra hit, because the way that I have my character set up is that when I hit with Stinger, it spawns a swarm of bees to go around me. And if I double hit, then that's two swarms of bees instead of one, right? So that's going to be my third and final complaint, really, that I can think of. I was trying to think of other things that kind of annoyed me or that I really didn't like, but they've added so much quality of life that that's really the last thing. Like, there's not a whole ton that I don't like about the game right now, besides, I mean, the three things that I mentioned. Moving away from the negative and into the positive, the first pro that I really have to give them props on is the quantity improvements. They went ahead and they increased the amount of resources you get by a stupid amount. I have never gotten close to running out of gold or running out of crafting materials or even really bossing materials besides this last run where I just went ahead and used all my boss materials. I have not had issues. Like, look at some of these numbers: 130K, 45K, and that's 45K with having two perfect skulls in my equipment, which cost like 100K skull fragments, right? So they finally went ahead and gave you the massive multipliers that you needed on resources to make sure that that's not the thing bottlenecking you in progression. Now, what you have to look out for is just items with the stats that you need, which may sound bad, but it's super easy since they got rid of all those damage on Tuesday modifiers, and items now drop essentially with primary stats and life, right? That's what items mainly have, and it makes it significantly easier for you to go ahead and find the items with like the resistance, the life, the main stat, and then the other stuff that you do need. Really, really good there. And one more thing, real quick, while we're still on that topic of the equipment, the fact that they went ahead and they removed sacred items from the loot pool is so good as well. Now I don't have to go from normal to sacred to ancestral. Now items only drop as their legendary or ancestral legendary variants. Sorry, I just almost spilled my monster all over myself. That's why I jumped like that. But a huge quality of life there, because it takes a huge middle chunk of the grind out when you would usually waste resources leveling up your sacred gear, and then you wouldn't even be using it that long before you transitioned into ancestral gear anyways. So they went ahead and they just took that part out of the game altogether. The next thing that I want to give them props on is going to be the leveling changes and the difficulty changes. Previously, you had a max level of 100, and I believe you had a max of 200 Paragon points. Correct me if I'm wrong, but now you go to a max level of 60 and you have 300 Paragon points. That paired with the rest of the quality of life that they've added into the game to make leveling faster is a huge quality of life and a huge pro for me, just because ARPGs, the leveling isn't the fun part, right? The end game is the fun part in ARPGs. You can't tell me that you enjoy leveling in Last Epoch or Path of Exile or Torchlight, right? You don't have fun leveling. I mean, some people might, but I feel like the vast majority of people do not enjoy it. So, speeding up that process is always going to be a huge positive, and I like how they did it. It feels more fluid and more streamlined going through the new difficulties as well. So, throughout the campaign and up until level 60, or I guess throughout the campaign or up until level 60, you're going to be at a difficulty setting of Penitent, right? Where you have a 175 max EXP boost and 175 more gold boost. This is going to be what you're running through. Think of it like when you start a D3 run, and I think you can go to like T2. It's been so long since I played D3, but where you would normally you'd start a new season and you do it in like T2 to make sure that that you got the most experience, most gold, most resources. Same thing here, except for these difficulties are actually challenging. I don't know if I was just ZDPS or what, but for the longest time, I had to lower it's so stupid and cheesy, but I lowered the difficulty on some of the boss fights. Like I would run through most of it on Penitent, and then if I died like twice on a boss, I would just drop down to like expert or hard. It was such a stupid, cheesy way of doing it, but like I wanted the max EXP and I really didn't want to int to bosses over and over again. So really cool there that they add the ability of you being able to challenge the game at whatever difficulty you would like. That whole risk versus reward thing, I'm always a fan of that in every game, like the Wild and RuneScape, right? I feel like it should be extra rewarding because you're risking the items, but we're not going to talk about that. Then you have Torment 1. Once you're able to clear a what is it? Let me go ahead and take a look. The pit. The pit was the thing that I was thinking of, right? You have to clear a pit level 20 to unlock Torment 1. And what this does for you is it gives you access to ancestral uniques as well as gives you an additional 125% more gold and EXP on top of the fact that this is when you get access to the boss fights. They got rid of normal variations of bosses and they all start at Torment 1. So Torment 1 is going to be really the time when you're able to start grinding out any type of unique item that you want and start farming those boss materials. You have higher drop rates for the rest of the stuff as well, and it falls in line really well with that natural progression of the game. Think of it like entering maps, right? T1 is essentially entering maps in Path of Exile in my best like experience. I'd say maybe yeah. Yeah. It'd be entering maps, right? Because you essentially are looking to get your Uber lab done, the boss fights, stuff like that. So T1 is essentially entering maps, and then T2 is going into red maps, essentially, is how I'm going to phrase it. If not red, super late game yellow maps. So there is that natural progression where you feel yourself get stronger, but then you're going to hit that point when you're about to hit T2 where you're like, okay, there's a massive difference in between T1 and T2. Like, this is an insane jump. Um, Let me go ahead and actually show you the difference. Okay, so we're going to run a Varshan here real quick because I believe it's going to be the easiest way to actually showcase this. So this is going to be a T1 boss, right? And as you can see, Tormented Echo of Varshan. So we're going to go ahead and kill him real quick. And then we'll jump over to T2, right? Okay, so boss dead. We pick up all of our mats, and as you can see, you receive a shit ton. And then let's jump over to T2. Okay, so now we're in T2 and we're going to summon Varshan once again. And I'm only going to do one attempt of this. So if I die, that's going to be like my attempt, right? But as you can see, I I I don't do damage, dude. Like I do very little damage. It's almost depressing the amount of no damage I do. And I would say that I do like millions of damage, but the T2 bosses are just so fucking tanky, right? They're kind of like insanely tanky. They hit super hard. Like you lose all of the resistances and shit that you lose from going into T2. And in general, it's just significantly harder. Like, I would not it would not be exaggerated to say that, oh, okay, from the T1 to T2 is a 100 times multiplier for bosses in terms of like HP and defenses, right? They have, and oh, my entire health bar is poisoned, I guess. Um, but yeah, so we're going to try to do this bar, Sean, and we're about halfway done. But you can literally see yeah, and I died. Okay, that's cool. And I'm assuming that that's just I don't know what type of damage that is because I do have max res with 79 poison res. So like and I have like 4.1k HP. I have the 1300 armor when I have my stacks up. So which in fights I have like all the time, right? So I have like the max fizz DR that I can have as well. Unless I'm just missing something about this fight that I just didn't know how to do previously is the only thing that I can really assume. Or I do have to focus more on just glass cannoning it because this is ridiculous. I need so much more damage before I can even attempt to farm these in T2. I saw Dat Mods farming them, and he was doing like hundreds of millions of damage, like no joke. He was hitting and critting for like 3 mil every hit, and he was doing like 7 or 8 hits like per second. So they have an absurd amount of health. And then for everything else, I'm pretty much just going to speed run it because I believe the video is already getting too long. So, mercenaries, super cool. They're essentially followers that help you out in combat and give you buffs. This chick over here is giving me a lot of attack speed, right? If you have right here, he has abilities where he'll throw up like a defensive bubble if your HP gets too low, stuff like that. With your secondary mercenary, the reinforcement, what they do is they essentially use a skill tied to a skill. So I could select any of these abilities, and whenever I cast this ability, he pops out and he throws a Molotov, right? You level these guys up, build a rapport, and you have a little shop here that has material caches as well as sometimes decent items. And then rounding us out with Nahantu and the Spiritborn themselves. I love the Spiritborn. It is my favorite class. I don't see myself ever playing another class besides Spiritborn. That's how much I enjoy it. It not only is it incredibly overpowered right now, it's just a super fun play style, right? It gives me super high hopes for the Monk in Path of Exile 2 because not to say anything Diablo does, PoE does better, but you know, kind of whatever Diablo does, PoE does better. So I hope that PoE 2 devs are taking a look because we have a month and you know you can still squeak in changes to make a more fluid play style. I really, 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 really hope the Monk in PoE 2 is good because that's the class I'm going to be starting. But yeah, apart from that, Nahantu itself looks really good. I love the aesthetic. I like the essentially the vibe, right? Really cool area. And I love how they just added a continent on the end of the continent. Gives me a lot of hope that like over here in the rest of this map that you can scroll to, but it's just fog of war that they feel like adding stuff or shit. We can even do like a World of Warcraft thing. Have us go in a portal to another realm. Have us go back to hell or go back to heaven, right? That would be a couple of cool things. But yeah, since I don't want this video to be infinitely long, that's pretty much it for now. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date with this and future content. And until next time, take care.